Welcome to Web3 Women. Hi, everyone. My name is Olienka Dennerin. I am the founder of Black Women Blockchain Council, which is bringing you Web3 Women. I'm very excited today to bring this wonderful lady beside me right now, who is a mover, a shaker, and she's a venture capitalist in this Web3 space. I want to introduce y'all to Barbara Bickham. Barbara, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Olienka. I'm Barbara Bickham. I'm the founder and managing partner of BWBC. We invest in diverse deep tech founders. So from our perspective, deep tech is blockchain, AI, quantum computing, Web3, and Internet of Things. That's kind of what we invest in. I've been in this space since 2017, full on. Prior to that, I was working at Hyperloops, writing artificial intelligences. I'm also one of the wireless pioneers in the United States. So I've been doing technology for over 35 years. Very, very acclimated in not only Web3, but also in traditional tech. Won many awards, was up for CTO of the Year 2022 again for my work with diverse founders in the Web3 space specifically. So that's my other company, Trailin Ventures, which is our advisory arm, and we help companies on that side with their Web3 and AI blockchain CTO work. So that's a little bit about me.
Man, Barbara, you have an extensive background, okay? You're a woman in tech, and you're also a VC founder who is changing the landscape. I had a chance to speak to some of your portfolio companies, and I have to say I'm very impressed by what they're doing.
Yeah, they're impressive.
They are very impressive. They are very impressive. Before I list some of them, and feel free to list them as well, like what goes into your thought process when it comes to venture capitalists and these portfolios that you're seeking?
Well, there's kind of two things we look at, right? How do we work with the founders? How can we help add value to the founders? Because sure, you can give anyone money. That's easy. But how do you create value after you've given them money, or when you're in the process of doing that is important. So we kind of help them with customers. We introduce them to partners. We introduce them to folks like you if they want to get into more philanthropic space, which can kind of help lift their brand as well. We have access to athletes, so we kind of help them in that. You know, a lot of people want celebrities, so we have lead celebrities, so we kind of connect them there. So that's one thing we look at. And the second thing we look at is how complementary are them amongst themselves. So we're really creating an ecosystem. So we don't have like 25 metaverses. We don't have 25 NFT platforms, right? Because that's not really a value add for the actual portfolio company. So if I had like 25 of the same thing, how then, and I keep going back to my same people from a customer side, and they're like, why do you have 25 of these? Right? So we try and create an ecosystem so that they can all work amongst each other. And then that also helps add value, and they can create partnerships and help increase the value of those companies at that level. That's awesome. How I think it's a portfolio construction thinking there.
No, I think that's a good process, and that's why you're successful in what you do. So one of your portfolio company is the Labz. Yeah. Tell us about them.
So the Labz is a metaverse. It's a Web3 metaverse, but it's not like Decentraland or what we just read last week, or what was the other one? The Sandbox, where there's only like 38 users in Decentraland, 130 users. That's unbelievable, but believable at the same time. What it is it's an interactive experience that you could brand yourself for your brand and bring your people into your own metaverse. So you're not depending on someone else's customer base to come in and interact with your metaverse. It also has no crypto elements to it. And so you can monetize it, the metaverse. You can have sponsors there. You can have purchases there. You can put a subscription on top of it. But it's not and you can token gate it, but it's not dependent upon crypto. So if you think about Decentraland and why do they only have 38 users in their metaverse, is because, right, you have to understand crypto, you have to go from Ethereum, you have to buy the mana, and then you have to go into the metaverse, and then there's probably some onboarding process where you have to get trained to do something, then you have to go walk around. If you're walking around in an empty thing, you're going to come out. That's just common sense. That's like a gaming perspective, right? Like you're walking around in a game and there's no one in the game, you're going to come out of the game. So that's what's very different about this metaverse. It can hang off of a URL. It's mobile based. I mean, it's very, very special. It's very special, and it's done by a diverse founder, female diverse founder.
Yeah, I love that. I know I was very impressed with seeing some of the demos that they had provided and how you can really incorporate your company events and people to experience that from a metaverse experience. And that was actually fantastic. Even your website, you can change your website to actually have like a metaverse component.
Either be a metaverse or have that component there, right?
Exactly. I saw what they did with, I believe it was Delta.
Yes.
And they had a few of their partners also incorporated into their website. And with those partners, you can actually click on them and then get like a 360 viewpoint of like the Hilton, the rooms and a hotel and
book it there.
Experience.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic.
That makes it powerful, right? That's also like using your brands in an interactive way, visualized way, to also interconnect with your partners, and then it's a seamless experience. Because normally when you book a travel, right, you're going to book your hotel on this one, you're going to book your and even from the airline side. So you go on Delta and you're going to go on there and then you're going to book your ticket, and they go, oh, by the way, you happen to be able to book on Hilton, or oh, by the way, you happen to be able to do Avis, right, rent a car. Oh, you happen to be able to have these add-on services. And this is a way to kind of centralize it, combine it, and yet still have a different kind of experience as a consumer.
Yeah, no, that it's fantastic. Another thing that they did was they took ads that could be on your platform. They actually made it into items that people can walk through a room and click on. And I thought that was very creative.
Yeah, it is the metaverse. That's what I call it, the metaverse. It's not just a metaverse. It's, in my mind, it's a way. It's really how people would interact online and then potentially offline as well, because you could take these experiences and create when you buy a ticket in your hotel, now you have a package that's now going to create some offline experience for you as a consumer. So you're connecting these online and offline experiences, which is how, I think we'll be operating moving forward.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right, especially with a lot of institutions getting involved in the metaverse and trying to have a presence in the metaverse. Just, a few months ago, read that, is it JP Morgan or Merrill Lynch? One of them have like a bank now that they've established a presence.
I think it's JP Morgan.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a whole lot of that. And then we know with the younger generation, because my daughter, she plays Roblox, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of, corporations that are paying to get their presence on Roblox and to get those younger generation involved in being their loyal customers. And I'm just like, wow.
Yes.
Things are changing.
Changing rapidly.
Yes, they are. So as someone who's been in tech for a long time, and you've seen how it has changed, right? What is your thought process on blockchain? A lot of people say that, it's just a fluke or like a flyby. I personally believe that it's here to stay, and I believe that there's going to be a lot that's created off of it. But what is your thought on this?
Well, I mean, if you think about blockchains, when did the Satoshi white paper come out? A while ago, right? Like they haven't gone away in all this time, because normally fads would disappear after a year or two in technology. So we're kind of 10 or 11 or 12 years into the blockchain area. And so I think that's kind of here to stay. The question really is how are we starting to get some real practical use cases of blockchains being utilized outside of media and entertainment and banking, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fintech, and we kind of see what's happening with some of the fintech. There's a lot of things happening in the media and entertainment with NFTs, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but you know, those are kind of the two concentrated areas where a lot of activity has gone in. But how do you go about like just purchasing a Coke with Ethereum or Bitcoin, right? Like, I think those rails don't exist yet. Say hello to Web3. And so who's going to make those rails? I just read something about MasterCard was going to try and empower crypto. And I'm like, well, that's nice, but what does that mean? Right? And it's a good way to empower crypto, because now you have a card and then you could swipe it and you could use it. So does that mean MasterCard's going to take because are you going to sell it right then? So if I swipe for the Coke, that's $2.49. I'm just going to use that example. I'm in California. Coke is probably $2.49. If I swipe that card, well, plus tax, so it's probably $2.55 or something. Plus 10 cents, $2.65. When I swipe and it's $2.65, is MasterCard going to settle that crypto transaction right then? And then it really is $2.65? I mean, this is the real reason why that hasn't been, it hasn't been massively adopted at that level. It's because the settlement pieces are not as simplistic as most people get, right? You want to do it almost near real time. And we know, being in this space, that goes, crypto goes up and down, up and down, up and down every minute, or it goes up all the time and down all the time. So settlement points are going to be important. Where do you actually convert the transaction into dollars? Or do you expect a merchant to, are you going to become a custodian of crypto now? And do you expect the merchant to go, okay, now that you've settled my $2.65 into, point whatever, whatever Bitcoin, point whatever of Ethereum, because that's what it was going to convert to, then how do I now pay my staff? How do I now buy more supplies? How do I now, there's some converting here and some logistical points that I think a lot of people haven't thought about.
You went into great detail about that, and you even got me thinking about some things. We know banks oftentimes, or credit card companies really oftentimes, take out fees, right?
Yes.
So fees for these transactions, and back in the day, transactions used to take a while to settle, right? And so you may purchase something like 5 days ago that's like $2.65. And then when it finally settles, it's now like $5.
Right. I mean, or $3.50, right? Like it went from $2. Add another buck on it, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Well, that's a good point as well. What are we going to do with these merchant fees? Now, are you going to now be creating these transactions for 5 cents for yourself and then charging, $1.50 still, or whatever, the 1.9 plus whatever it is?
Yeah.
On top of the crypto. And then there are crypto fees as well. Like, unless you're going to write your own coins, which I'm not saying is impossible, but unless you're going to write your own coins, there are fees on top of the, if you're using Ethereum, there's fees there. So who's going to pay those fees? That's why I'm saying the whole settlement process, I think it looks easy from the outside, but there's many things to think about as to how you actually settle a transaction and what does it actually look like.
That's so true. That's so true. And one thing we know for sure, we live in a capitalistic society. So institutions are all about getting their money. They're not about losing money. Yeah, that's wow. I never really thought deep into that whole process, how things will actually work out. I know, that is ultimately what we want, right? We want to be able to transact using cryptocurrency, and giving that, the government is actually looking at creating their own CBDC. And
Correct.
there's a lot of process to go through for them to finally get to that level. But it looks like, they are more for it now, and they
Mhm.
are working towards actually creating one right now versus a couple of months ago. And so they got to work through that whole process, how does things settle and what's going on and all that stuff. But the difference with theirs is that it's centralized, so they can actually carve out a whole protocol for themselves.
100%, right? So that it may be no fees, right? From the
Mhm.
government, it may be no fees. If they're trying to kind of keep it similar to cash, there's no
Mhm.
fee to get cash necessarily. But there's still those other rails, payment rails, right? Like for merchants and
Mhm.
payroll
Mhm.
and these other things, right? In order for you to actually really transact in cryptocurrency. I mean, I've thought about this many times because everyone says, well, why can't we just adopt Bitcoin or this one or that one as currency? We easily could do that. However, you still need these other things in order to create a consistent velocity or trade value across Bitcoin and money or this and this. And that, like we've been discussing, there are many other stakeholders in the chain of that.
Mhm.
And so, how do you now look at this in a more holistic viewpoint?
Woo, wow. Food for thought.
There you
Food
go.
for thought.
Somebody can
And
think about it. Somebody else can think about that as well.
and I'm sure they got all kinds of people on it. So, as what are you looking forward to in this space? You are a VC right now. You've been in tech for a while. You have a solid foundation and understanding of, what this whole space could possibly be. What are you
Mhm.
looking forward to?
I mean, there's a few things I'm looking forward to. We're working so as Trail and Ventures, which is not Trail and VC, but that's the other half. We are working on a couple of practical use case for blockchain and NFTs that make sense.
Mm.
So we're doing one around content creators, and it's a very niche market. And we're doing one in kind of the oil and gas area, which sounds crazy, but oil and gas is going to change and evolve. So how
Mhm.
now do you, as a small either well owner or a small gas company or as a small gas distributor, start bridging across the current what oil and gas is to what it needs to be,
Mm.
right? Because if you think about it, a lot of things are going to convert into electrical, and more things are going to convert into solar and wind and things of that nature. I mean, it's been doing it slowly, but then how do you do that at scale?
Mm.
And you're going to need to involve these oil and gas people in order to do it at scale, because they know how to create a power. That's what I'll call it. And without power, none of this, you're not going to be able to charge your electric vehicle without power. Let's be real. So, how do we take what we currently have in the way we make power and fuel and convert that into like the new, more modern way, I'll say, to
Mm.
create power and energy and empower things. So I'm working on a couple of projects like that. And then the other thing from the blockchain space specifically, when the quantum computer comes, there's going to be a couple of things to look at. One, when the CBDC will be empowered by a quantum computer,
Mm.
because it won't be hackable, and it'll be scalable, and it'll be able to consensus and consensus itself. In essence, the governance and consensus, the computer will be able to do itself. That's number one. And then number two, the quantum computer creates like a cybersecurity problem, not just for crypto, but for everybody.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what does that look like? So we're looking at things like that
Mm.
because
So
it's
can you
important.
break it down for some of our viewers? They have no idea. right?
Of what?
The
Cybersecurity?
quantum computer and why it would be a cybersecurity issue. So
Oh,
can
okay.
you break it down for them?
Well, the reason why it would be a cybersecurity issue is currently, if you read any of the headlines around crypto, you take crypto specifically, a lot of people hack into crypto, into either centralized things right now, in order to take money out of wallets. Or didn't Binance just got hit? They say 100 million. This could be up to $600 million was taken off of their exchange. So imagine a quantum computer going there, and literally Binance's exchange would be gone in like 5 minutes. So whatever they took, 600 million, 100 million, the quantum computer, if someone got their hands on it, was nefarious, could wipe that out in 5 minutes. Not only because of the speed, but because the attack, and it could crack all the keys. All the keys very quickly. So that's why it's a problem. So they're talking about quantum. It won't be quantum proof, but it will be, very difficult to attack the quantum encryption, because they're really trying to prevent the quantum computer from cracking the quantum encryption. So it's a security thing, because if we're talking about doing CBDCs or MasterCard's coming in here and they're going to start empowering all these transactions, now you've basically said, I'm going to be opening myself up to infinite hacking. And how are you really going to protect yourself? I mean, MasterCard doesn't have the best record on protecting regular data records.
That's true.
We're talking about money now, right? So these are places where people are looking to attack large pools of money. So you have to think about that. How do we go about protecting these huge pools of money? Like, okay, the US government makes a central bank digital currency, and there's trillions of dollars in there. You mean to tell me no one's going to try to hack that? Come on.
I mean, they're definitely going to. And so what I'm hearing is that quantum computer or computing is not only a threat to the whole blockchain space, but also to the entire, financial institution as well, any corporation, even government. Because cryptography, which is very important in blockchain, is also being used by the federal government as well as other corporations too. So, being able to break those keys, is a threat. It's a threat as well as
massive threat. So it's very important for us to be looking at that and really understanding how cryptocurrency or any of these technologies, even artificial intelligence, if you got AI, artificial intelligence on these quantum computers, then we might have her, Terminator, Ex Machina.
I'm not ready for that, Barbara. I'm not ready.
I'm just saying, neither am I, but I'm just saying, right? Like, this is why we have to really, from a technological side of life, I mean, we talk about ethical AI. We don't really talk about ethical blockchain, but that should be a thing. How do you make sure that people are doing this in kind of a benevolent and more benevolent way versus a more destructive way? We don't have those conversations enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to go a step further. Ethical technology, right?
Exactly.
So that includes ethical coding, ethical programming, all that stuff, because we do need it, because we know people will take advantage of technology, but we need people to really come with the better mind frame and better objective than what we're kind of seeing here in this blockchain space, where there's people that are rug pullers, and that's just their
I would just say nefarious people. It's multiple types of people that are in the blockchain space. They're just nefarious.
There's money to be made. There is money to be made,
and they don't really care how they do it. This is the ethical. This is what the ethical piece of this is.
Yes,
you even really care.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I want to let the viewers know that you are a board member for a few organizations, one including Black Women in Blockchain, which is a Black Women Blockchain Council's nonprofit organization. But you're also a board member of the Crypto Kids Camp. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm a board member on the Crypto Kids Camp. Crypto Kids Camp teaches kids about cryptocurrency, drones, engineering, gaming, blockchains, artificial intelligence. We give them, we train them on how to purchase crypto. We give them crypto wallets. We train them on mining. So we have some kind of connections into some coins that are mined. So it's an overall comprehensive education for children, kind of from 5 until 18, we'll say, on all those different topics. It's a week. I do it's called Blockchain with Blocks. So it's basically a blockchain art project, very low tech, to train the kids on what is a blockchain exactly. So that's important. So that kind of kicks that off, and then they kind of get the rest of the education from that.
I love it. I love that. From 5 to 18. And you guys have like a location, right?
We do have a location. It's in San Pedro, and it's being, I'll say, renovated, rejigged, upgraded. But there is a location in San Pedro, and then there's a location here in Inglewood down the road here, not far from me because I'm in Inglewood. Nice. At the Crypto Blockchain Plug, that's where we did it at first. And so there is a physical location for the Crypto Kids Camp. Absolutely.
Awesome. And is that a year-round program, or is that just during the summer?
Well, the camp is the physical camp is like a week during the summer, but they do have year-round programs. So they kind of have some pop-up camps, and they try and do some things in other areas on the weekends, like maybe a 2-day. Like here's an introduction to Crypto Kids Camp.
I thank you very much, Barbara, for giving me information about you. Now, let's move on to hot topics. It's hot topics time, y'all.
All right, hot topics. Let's heat it up in here. Not like it wasn't hot enough.
No, we have 2 major hot topics to talk about.
Okay.
The first one is Bored Ape Yacht Club. They were put on notice that the SEC is looking at the way that they tokenize their NFT. So what is your take on that?
So, having awaited the SEC's regulatory clarity around any crypto at any level, well, let me put it this way. They have regulatory clarity around Bitcoin, and there's some regulatory clarity around Ethereum. Everything else has zero regulatory clarity.
Yeah.
So, from a smart business side, if you are looking at coming into blockchain space in the United States, you should treat it like equity. Like everything has to be treated like equity. So if you want to do it properly, do it that way. This is not professional advice. I'm not a lawyer. This is like for entertainment purposes only, but this is my suggestion. Okay. That's number one. And I think the thing that's happening is, because there's no regulatory clarity, the SEC defaults to its default position, which is, we need to protect investors, and thus we're going to treat it as an investment vehicle. That's how I leave that, right? And so what does that mean? That means, they're going to go after them just like Ripple. I mean, we could talk about that one. We could talk about other ones that they've gone after because there's no regulatory clarity.
That is true. And speaking of Ripple, it looks like, they're, oh gosh, it almost feels like a decade-long fight that they've had.
It feels like a decade of fighting.
That's almost at a close, and it looks more positive for Ripple. And I feel like Ripple put all their resources behind this one to fight this on so many levels. And a lot of people assume that, if Ripple wins, and that's a good thing for the whole space. And I'm looking at it, as you mentioned, that, they exempt Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah,
And they
they
basically
absolutely did.
said everything else is still on the table, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I don't believe that Ripple's quote unquote win, right, will be an indication of any to what the next move for the SEC will be. We know that they're coming in and treating everything differently. And so their treatment of both NFT and possibly deeming it to be securities, or at least the way that Yuga Lab issued these NFTs.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, go ahead.
No, yes, I'm agreeing.
And then on top of that, they talked about the ape coin that they released.
Specifically. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that too may be an issue. I believe that this is my take, and I'm just an opinion, that they may be able to win on the NFT side.
Mm-hmm.
But however, with the ape coin, it really depends on how they maneuver, right? Because the SEC looks at it from different angles. They look at it, how did they market? Were people anticipating this? Was this, publicized before it was released? Or did certain people get it with the expectation of gaining,
a gain? Yeah, that's
a gain. So it's a sticky.
Or right, like you created a DAO. Are those people accredited investors? Did you follow that? Did you KYC those people? Do you know? Right, like, I mean, so the ape coin, which came out of a DAO, which is where the coin came from, you have to look at all those issues and ask yourself, did they follow the rule of, like, in essence, issuing equity, which is very clear. We can talk about how we test and all this other stuff, but it's very clear how equity is issued in the United States, because that's what venture capitalists do. That's what public markets do, right? Like, it's not like this has never happened. So if you kind of want to go outside the rules of the United States, and Bored Ape is a very big, they go after these big targets. Ripple's a big target. Bored Ape is a big target. And they make an example of those people, then it kind of has a chilling effect on everyone else. Right? And I agree with you on the Ripple point. It may be great for Ripple, but did it actually create any more regulatory clarity for anyone else? It did for Ripple, right? If we lose, right? They're going to know either way.
Yeah, exactly.
From the marketplace side in the United States, does it help advance the blockchain marketplace in the United States?
Yeah, that's true.
We'll see.
I think I know you're right. You're definitely right in regards to that. And what a lot of people seem to miss is that the SEC does not write the rule, they enforce the rule. They are an enforcement agency.
Yes.
So if you want the rules to change, if you want this Howey test to change, you really need to look at Congress, because they're the one that writes the rule. This is the way America is structured. Your legislative body are the one that legislate. They write the rules. So if we want to make change in this space and we want to have a more favorable security or blockchain related rules, then we definitely need to target our Congress people. They're the one that's going to make any dent. Otherwise, the SEC, regardless of whoever is in charge, who's the director, he or she will definitely look at it and be like, I don't know, it doesn't pass the current sniff test. And one thing we don't want to do is pigeonhole, what we're trying to build into an archaic regulation.
I agree. So I do believe the regulation, 1934 or 33 was the act, 34, Howey test 1940s. I mean, this is 2022 when we're recording this. So I'm a little unclear as to why we're going under those rules. And I agree, right? The lobbying on the crypto side maybe needs to, as much as you want to have pigeonhole. The other thing I've seen is like, let's backfit it into what exists. I think whole new everything needs to be created. Like, what is really digital money? What is really digital currency? What is really a digital commodity? What is really, like, what does that really mean?
Mm-hmm.
From a regulatory side? There's nothing wrong with having like a blank paper and like kind of reimagining it.
Yeah. You're right. I think the biggest issue for them right now is that right now we have people in Congress who have no idea what this is even
Well,
about.
that's
And
true as well.
it's so fast. So to try to catch up for them is just like it's crazy. And by the time they actually have a rule, we're going to be onto something else, right?
Well, who even knows what will be happening, right? By the time they kind of figure it out, and that's dangerous, right? Because there is disparity in the crypto space, which I know we'll chat about here in a minute, but there is disparity here, and you don't want any gaps to get wider because you got because the rules were not modified. But this, I mean, this conversation is kind of important. This is why it's important to look at who's running for Congress. There was a girl here, and she didn't win the primary, but there was a girl here in LA that, first of all, she got it. She had the ability to raise money with an NFT for her campaign, political campaign, and then she was young. So I said, well, we got to support these young people. So I was supporting her, right, all the ways I could, because I said, if we're really going to get these regulations changed, we kind of got to get some people in there that know what these things are. So I 100% agree with you. We can't have these archaic people with their archaic rules and then expect them to understand some new technological conversation, because I think it has to be completely redone, right?
Yes, it does. It does, at least to fit what we're building and what's to be built, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's move on to the second hot topic, which is the fact that a lot of these marketplaces are now moving towards no royalties as an option. As you and I discussed before, that royalty is very important to our community, the underrepresented community, and make sure that we are able to build financial freedom. And there's that disparity right there. And this NFT space was actually solving that issue. So now taking that away from the community, that's a gap there. So what do you think?
Well, it is a massive gap, number one. But number two, if you think about traditional, like how this has worked traditionally, the ownership of the content, and this could be musical content, it could be video content, it could be, images, it could be pictures, photographs, it could be artwork, right? Just figurines, just think of any type of content or kind of artistic good. The owner of that good is the one benefiting from the royalty. Because if you think about music and why does Sierra want to own her masters? Why does Taylor Swift want to own the masters? So that they can take advantage of the full monetization, and they have control over what royalties they get. Because when you own the content, it's the difference when you getting like 5% because they're just going to give you what they want, and earning 70 or 80 or even 65. Like, you can kind of give up on your royalty split one way or another, but you own that. So you're okay with that, right? Like, oh, I own it. Okay. Half or, this is a fair split to me because I own this, right? Versus if you don't own it on the revenue split. So if you're even going to eliminate the 5% people, which could be a lot of money for some people, then why would you even use that platform? So those platforms will probably go away. That's number one. If you look at historically, like when YouTube started pulling things, people went to Twitch. Twitch has gone a little crazy now. They're looking for other places to go. This DLive was over here, and then they went crazy, so they went over here, right? So content creators are going to move. They're not just going to stay with your platform if you're not going to give them royalties. Like, that doesn't make sense. And number two, why, then if you're not going to give the royalties, which is just a continuous revenue stream on the back, what's the trade-off? Are you really going to pay the full value of the content. So if you had a $250,000 content, and I'm like, okay, I'm willing to split this 70-30 because I'll make my 250 back plus. Then are you really willing to pay me the real value of this at some level? Like there would have to be some trade-off. Yeah. And what are you buying? A $250,000 gift? And then from an investor side, if you had one of these platforms, I'd be looking going, well, how are you going to grow your platform? Because you're really leveraging these creators, all content creators of all different types, to build your platform. And now you're taking their monetization away. And I'd be like, that's kind of weird. So how are you going to grow your platform as an investor? Like, that's the investor hat, Barb, right? But even as a user, I'd be like, this content, like, you also have to think about it from an end user side. Who's going to go to your platform if you don't have fresh content all the time? This is what makes YouTube powerful. This is what makes Twitch powerful. This is what makes Amazon powerful. This is what makes, all these content, OTT things powerful. They always have content. Disney Plus, like, we can name them on and on. Why are they powerful? Because they're always making content and producing new content. And you're always watching new content, right? So, like, or listening to new content, even for radio and stuff. So, I mean, it kind of makes no sense logically. I don't know why you would do that. I don't know if this is a cost-cutting measure and you don't understand, from a business side, how to really cut costs. But I wouldn't necessarily, like, do you think you're saving money by cutting the 5% or what? They're not paying top dollar to half of these people. So I'm a little unclear as to even why you would think that was a good idea. Because you're basically saying, I'm going to kill my own platform. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's like a movement right now, and I don't know. I don't really understand it either. I don't know what the motives are behind all of these platforms either doing away with royalties or, now giving people the option of no royalties. I just think it's weird. It's really weird because there were some platforms that actually were created last year that didn't allow you to include royalties, and people complain about that. Yeah. To now go backwards, it's like, wait, what are we doing here? like you said, don't you understand? This is the reason why a lot of people are putting out content so that they can reap the benefit of, the royalties later on. We know
there's two sides to it, right? When you're building a marketplace for anything, you have the person that, if you think about Uber, which is kind of like a marketplace, you have the person that wants to get the ride, and then you have the person that's providing the ride. So now all of a sudden, because of coronavirus and some other things, there are less people who provide rides. And yet the demand of people that want rides isn't any less. But now that's creating a friction. So if you think of it this way, you have the people that want to provide the content, and you're the middle person, and then you have the people that want to consume the content. Well, if I'm always looking at the, like the same thing over and over, like several months in a row, I'm not going to go to your platform anymore. It's going to be boring.
That's true. That's true. I mean, you said the operative word, they're the middleman, right? Yeah. And we're building a space where we can eliminate the middleman. So if the middleman wants to start cutting corners and putting barriers in place, guess what, people? You can create your own smart contract and include royalties. Okay.
100%. You can do it yourself or get an independent person to do it for you, right? Or something like that. You can create some other economic opportunities for some folks. That's true. You don't have to have a middleman to do this. That's 100%. That is the promise of the blockchain. That was the whole purpose of the Satoshi white paper. I can trade with Olenka, and we don't need anybody in the middle.
That part.
That's it. That's how business was done. We still do business that way. Like, hey, I'm working with you. We sign these contracts. We got it done. Right? We don't need a middle person for that.
You don't. Oh, man, I love it. I love that you broke it down like that. Now it's time for tips. It's tips time.
Tips. Let's get some tips.
Yes. So Barbara, as an experienced individual in the space, and you've seen a lot, and you're also investing into a lot of projects. What would be your recommendation for a newcomer, maybe a founder that's interested in, putting their thought to reality and creating an MVP. Any type of tips that you may have for any of our audience?
Okay, so couple of tips. One, we need everyone in this space. I still believe we need everyone in this space. Because just because you built something, let's just assume you got some developers and you made a smart contract and you're deploying out a XYZ coin. I'll just call it XYZ coin, and it does something to help someone. You still need marketing. You still need support. You still need sales, right? It's not about, now let me go get my coin sold and then put it on these exchanges and play that game. If you're going to make a real viable business, then make a real viable business. And then that kind of goes back to the ethical piece, right? Because we know people that do that as well. Like, hey, we've got kind of a structure here, and it's really, we're not really ever going to build any. This is why we don't look at things with no MVP, right? You got to have something in general. Otherwise, right, you have an idea, which is great, but you spend the money on the idea initially. So that's what I believe. I think there are, we always think like, oh, we need developers. Of course, we need developers. We need those people, but we also need the ancillary people. And I think that's good. I think the other thing is, there's a lot of people in this space that think they understand because they came from like banking or, like some other spaces. But if you take like Celsius, I'll just use that because that's all in the news, right? That was not a good business model because they weren't a bank and none of that was guaranteed. So I'm sad that those people, a lot of people lost their money and the main people got their money. Because that's common. We can go back to that Canadian exchange that happened. We can go, we can go to some other examples. Mt. Gox that happened. We can go to some other examples where these things have happened. So the question becomes, as consumers too, when do we start really looking at and understanding these financial, some of this is a financial literacy conversation, which is separate and apart from how the how piece. At first you need to understand what it is, what are you doing, and then you can say, well, does this look like a CD? Then you can start asking, well, does this look like this kind of product from the bank? Well, is this guaranteed by XYZ ABC? How do these things really work? Because marketing is powerful, and crypto, they got good marketing, although Kim Kardashian just got slapped a little bit. But in general, right, they got pretty good marketing. And there's a lot of things out there that people don't understand because the financial literacy isn't there. And it's not their fault. It's nothing wrong with them, or they just don't know. And then you add this extra crypto level, which has more technical pieces to it, not necessarily more financial pieces to it. You just wrapped it in a coin or wrapped it in this or made it look pretty, but it's still this, kind of seedy, potential, unethical finance, right? And then, people get caught up in things. And now a lot of people have been hurt by the Celsius thing.
Yeah.
They had all their crypto in there. These people, I had the majority of my crypto, gone. So, I mean, these are the things that we need to be thinking about and teaching people about at some levels, because it's beyond just like, hey, we got crypto, we got Web3, we got NFTs, we got blockchains, we got coins. You got to understand, like, how are the people really solving these problems, and what are they really solving, and how does this kind of map with, because all this is out in the world. When I talk about velocity of money, people look at me crazy. And some people said, oh, you actually understand that? Yes, because if you're talking about using something as a currency, at some point you got to talk about inflation. What happens if this happens? More supply than demand. You got to talk about what happens to the money supply. How do you move money? And that conversation we were having earlier, how do you actually empower people and put money in and out of a system? This is economics. This already exists in the world. We don't have to like make up new economics because now it's digitized.
That's true. Wow, those are some powerful tips. To summarize, one of the main points that you made was doing your own research. The importance of
Yes,
that, the importance of knowing what you're investing in as well,
yes,
is very much important. Right now is the bear market, and a lot of people are, well, they have pulled back from investing,
100%.
and some of them are actually doing research. They're taking this time to either research or build. But I think a lot more
And
people are
that's
just
good.
sitting back and waiting.
And that's good. They should be researching and or building now.
Mhm.
Because like you said, and these are the times to really learn,
Mhm.
while it is a little down. And it's a time to educate yourself about what are these things really and how are they really going to impact my life. Because if the government rolled out like a central bank digital currency, like we would be good with it, you and I, but some other people not so much.
Yeah.
So, it's a good time to be learning about these things and really understanding how it will impact you moving forward.
Yes, it is. Man, you provided a lot of wonderful tips.
Thank you
Now,
so
I
much.
want people, you're welcome. I want people to be able to reach out to you.
Yeah.
Please provide your website so that they can find out more about Trailing VC, and all your other projects that you're working on.
Okay, so the best way to go to Trailyn VC is go to TRAILYNVC, all one word.com. If you want to know about the other two projects that I mentioned that are under Trailyn Ventures, you just go to TRAILYN.com. Crypto Kids Camp, you spell it like it sounds, CRYPTOKIDSCAMP.org. And then you can go to BWBC.io if you want to know more about the Black women in blockchain. There you go.
Awesome,
And
Barbara.
dashboard.
Thank you for that.
Of
I
course.
enjoy having you on. I know we
Thank
can
you.
talk for
Yeah, we
the
could
whole
talk for
night.
another hour and a half, but
I
that's
know.
cool.
We,
That's
don't we didn't even cover most of the stuff that we talked about.
okay. We can talk again.
There's so much more, and I would love to have you come back and
Thank you.
give us more insight into this. But for now, I want to encourage everyone to go ahead and subscribe. Make
Yeah.
sure you follow Barbara and look into the projects that she's working on. They are fantastic projects, I have to say.
Thank you.
She is a woman on the move, a woman to definitely be able to tap into and know exactly what she's working on, because she's always working on something.
Mhm.
I appreciate you joining us. Make sure you subscribe, everyone. And we want to bid you adieu. Bye, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, Olenka.
You're welcome.